Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Let's begin with a moment of silence and reflection for about 30 seconds or so. Thank you very much. This is the regular meeting of the Town of Holden Beach, the monthly meeting, and we'll officially call this meeting to order. Welcome all of you. And do we have anyone here? This is the first time you've been to a town meeting? Okay, welcome. Very, very much. We appreciate you being here. And to that corner back there on that table in the rear has copies of the agenda and some other paraphernalia that you might find helpful in following along with the meeting. And again, welcome to you for being here. And number 3 on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. If you would, let's stand and pledge allegiance to the flag to my right, your left. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Number 4, if you can't hear us tonight, if you'll raise your hand, we'll try to speak into the microphones and do a better job. Number 4, we're going to consider the approval of the agenda as presented or may be amended. Is there a motion or discussion of any kind?
There's a memo from the clerk, the proposed agenda amendments. Attorney Fox has requested an executive session prior to the item on Elizabeth Street. That would be item 12, Mr. Fletcher's item. And Chief Lane has an interlocal agreement between the town and the sheriff's office that he'd like the board to approve. And the proposed agenda amendment is adding the interlocal agreement as item 8A and the executive session to consult with the attorney as agenda item 11A. That would put it previous to the item 12. And it dawns on me that we've also got an executive session at number 19, just as a suggestion, as the board may wish, in order to keep from having to go up and down the stairs 2 times, could we move number 19 to 11B-ish, or where that should be, and do them both at the same time?
Is there a motion from anyone in regards to that?
I move to make that change.
Just a question,
Let's get a second.
I'm sorry.
No, you're all right. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. You're right, go ahead.
I'd say the question, is it against protocol to address all 3 during one executive session?
No,
Not a
not as
problem.
long as it's articulated the purpose of,
Okay.
As long as it's,
You have to designate the purpose for
Right. But we could have one session to address all 3?
We can go into executive session for the purposes of attorney-client and to discuss, as indicated on the agenda, in pursuant to 143-318, 11A.
Okay.
For both purposes.
I was just thinking in the interest of the attendees, we could just do it all in one.
okay. Now I'm looking for a second.
Second.
Okay. Any more discussion? Everybody understand what the suggestion is, the motion and the second is? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Madam Clerk, we have amended the agenda. For those of you in the audience, to make sure you understand, 8A will be added in regards to Chief Lane's request for interlocal agreement discussion with the Sheriff's Office. 11A has been added as executive session, and 11B will be what was number 19 on your agenda. So with that, we have agreed upon an amended agenda, and we are now on number 5 for the consideration of approving the minutes of the special meeting of July the 18th. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second?
Second?
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. It's unanimously passed, Madam Clerk. 5B, minutes of the special meeting of public hearing July the 18th. Is there a motion on that?
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second?
Motion second, any discussion? None. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous, Madam Clerk. 5C, minutes of the regular meeting of July the 18th. Is there a motion?
Yes, I motion to amend the minutes.
Second? Oh,
What are we
Oh, sorry.
amending?
On page 8, it's, eight lines up from the bottom, there were 9 lines up. of
What
Commissioner-
line number is it? Just look to the right and I'll tell you.
Oh. 41 or 42.
All right?
Basically on 41, Commissioner Freer said his intent is to codify what is reality and if such, safety or traffic issue to be added. I listened to the tape. And my second amendment is not here at all. There was a fairly lengthy discussion, but I'll condense it to Mr. Hewitt discussion about pedestrian safety on the road because of obstructions in the right-of-way. It was discussion around family, wheelchair, blind person. So I think we ought to add that there was a Mr. Hewitt discussion about pedestrian safety on the road because of obstructions in the right-of-way.
Madam Clerk, I want to help you on that. If you would propose some verbiage so we could have something to vote on.
I just did.
You just did. but I
Mr.
guess I
Hewitt.
wasn't smart enough to get it.
Mr. Hewitt, discussion about pedestrian safety on the road because of obstructions in right-of-way.
That's the way you want it. Everybody understand what his proposal is? You're making a motion
will
to,
it be separate motions? If you
What?
said 2 items?
either way you want it. Your motion is for one or both?
Both.
Have a motion for both proposed changes. Is there a second?
I second.
Second. All right. Now, any discussion about those proposed changes? All right, you ready to vote on the approval of the amended minutes?
Yes, sir.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Madam Clerk, the minutes are amended as proposed. Number 6, public comments on agenda items. I have a list of speakers here tonight. Is that correct? Ms. Gay Atkins, you're up.
I don't know whether this is appropriate now that I've looked at a change, but I was talking about Elizabeth Street, why you were considering purchasing it and what use you would have of it.
Ms. Hewitt, will you clarify that for the speaker?
You weren't.
She is asking about why the town would be considering purchase of Elizabeth Street, and I don't think that's on the agenda at all. I think that what we're talking about is another street. Is that right, Mr. Hewitt?
No, I guess I'm reading what you were going to go into executive session, that negotiations of price and terms, contract concerning acquisition of parcel number 232. And it's 222 Ocean Boulevard, it's that's all. What are you considering and why? Can I ask that question?
Without objection
think
from
so.
the commissioners, I don't see. Madam?
It's a,
She can offer her question, her comments about what is on the written agenda, but that's something that will be discussed in closed session by the board. But it is a matter on the agenda, but this is a public comment, not a dialogue. So if you have thoughts about the proposed
wish that you all would listen a little bit more to Alan. He grew up here, he knows what's here, we've got 44 acres down the beach that I don't know whether you all know this. We already are a large landowner on Holden Beach. And if you're considering purchasing a lot for parking, we already have parking about 4 lots from that was donated, and we didn't have to pay for it. And so my concern is the money that's being spent in the town on property that I don't know that we can continue affording the prices. With taxes are now 22 cents a hundred, which is $2.20 per hundred. And I don't know where we're gonna keep getting the money from. Another back thing, which Alan is on the agenda since he's mayor. Alan and I have had our ups and downs, but you've got a resource there that you're letting put the gavel down and put the gavel down, and that's it. And you should ask this question, ask him about what's going on around here and what some history is before you make some decisions. And I don't think you all are doing that. I think you're leaving him out. You're leaving your resource out. Thanks.
I have a comment to make. We haven't gotten any information on this, so it's presented, and all this information is presented to the board in the executive session. We have no information on it, so
You're
no-
not purchasing today.
I have no information on it. So we go into executive session to discuss it. So,
The information that is provided to the public that is relevant to our topic is that the purpose of the executive session is to establish or instruct staff or agent concerning the negotiation of a price for parcel number 232MN008. While there is no address listed on the agenda, that parcel ID is tied to an address. So that's the information that the
Right.
public is made aware of at this time.
Exactly.
If the board takes action, then certainly that would be announced in open session.
right. Thank you.
All right, second speaker, Ms. Fleischauer.
Karen Fleischauer, 125 Lions Park. Last month, I came and spoke to you about recycling, and Mark Pompey, at the end of the meeting, said you should watch the plastic ocean. If any of you have any doubts as to the impact of plastic, please watch this movie or documentary. It's either on Amazon Prime or Netflix. If you don't have access to that, give me a call. I'd be happy to put it on YouTube. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. That concludes our list of speakers. Is that right? That's it? All righty. We have a guest speaker this evening. That's for you. You want to
Yes,
do the introduction?
by way of introduction, we have Yvonne Hatcher, the Director of the Brunswick Transport System. Last month, you may remember, we had a presentation on AARP, and I believe the sticker that came at it from me when queried from the board, public transportation was one of the specifics that came out of that. The town is part of the Grand Strand Metropolitan Planning or Regional Planning Organization. As part of that, Brunswick County, the Brunswick Transit System also has a seat on that. I ran into Yvonne at the meeting. It had not dawned on me that that is a service that Brunswick County, Holden Beach residents might avail themselves of. I don't know a lot about it, but I thought it appropriate to ask her here tonight and let her tell us about what Brunswick Transit is. That's what Yvonne is, and she has graciously accepted the invitation to do so.
And welcome.
Thank you for inviting me and having me here. Again, Brunswick Transit System, our office is located in Charlotte. We are, sorry, I hope everybody can hear people when we were in Bolivia thought we were a part of the county government, did not realize we were open to the general public. So we've been kind of breaking that stereotype with some rebranding since moving to Charlotte. The service again is available to the public. We are funded mostly through grants, being a nonprofit agency with local, state, and federal grants that mostly come through the Department of Transportation. Anybody in the community can call our service. It is all by reservation. Since we do provide service in the entire community, which is nearly 900 square miles, we do require a 48-hour notice for a reservation. That's probably the biggest drawback for people in the community that need this service, because we provide between 250 and 300 trips a day. Coordinating those trips is very difficult. So that's probably the biggest drawback, but the availability and the affordability is really what provides the service to the most people. That general public service is available to anybody in the community for $3 each way. We also go into New Hanover on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Right now, that's the only county, out-of-county service that we provide is into New Hanover, 2 days a week. But we provide service in the county 5 days a week, with that 48-hour notice for a reservation. We also write contracts with other agencies in the community, the largest two being the Community College and Brunswick Senior Resources, and then other community agencies as well. We just recently, again, the timing of coming here being, and with seniors being very important, we just received notice last week of a grant that we applied for last year that's going to target Charlotte for a pilot program to offer same-day service. Again, that 48-hour reservation being a stumbling block for many people when they need service kind of immediately. We applied for a grant last year to offer some same-day service, and we just received notice last week that we were awarded that grant for a pilot program in Charlotte. So we're gonna offer that this year, and hopefully that'll take off, and we'll be able to use that program to apply for future grants to target other communities in the county as well. So we're really excited about that, especially as the system is showing those growth numbers and where the service is needed all across the community, all across the county. Are there any questions?
So if I've got an appointment on, say, next Monday, I can call you tomorrow and make a reservation and pay $6, and you'll come and get me at Holden Beach and take me to the doctor's office in Charlotte, and then bring me back home to Holden Beach.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
I mean,
Now
it's as simple as that.
the van doesn't sit in the parking lot at the doctor's office. I mean, you, okay,
No, we're running between 250 and 300 trips a day.
okay.
We have a fleet of 17 vehicles. We have about 20 drivers.
I didn't know it was that big.
Yeah, 17 vehicles. Last year, we provided, I was just working on reports today. Last year, we provided almost 54,000 trips. Well over 500,000 miles, all without a single accident. So we're really happy about our numbers, and again, the growth. One of our service goals for last year was to increase our general public service. The contract service is really the base of what we do, working with agencies to provide service for their clients. That's a huge gap when agencies in this county that work with people that need to get where they need to go. So that is a huge base of who we work with, agencies that need to get their clients where they need to go. But reaching into the communities to help people that either don't have a car or can't put gas in their car, or seniors that maybe don't feel comfortable driving anymore, or even the distances across the county. So our goals last year were to increase that general public service. We were at about 8% of our service, and our goal was to get over 10%, and we actually hit 12.2%. So that's huge for us. So we're gonna try to increase those numbers even more, in this year, this fiscal year. So we've really, the move to Charlotte helped that. Doing this for 16 years, but we still have people that don't know we're here. Part of that was being in Bolivia, people just didn't really see us. But now that we're on Main Street and in Charlotte, those big white buses, they feel huge to us, but people, they seem to disappear when they go up and down the road. There's 17 of them. We changed up our logo, they have the phone numbers on them, so you probably see them around. But yeah, we cover the entire county, and you're absolutely right. That's as simple as it is the 48 hours is really the only, there's no application process, there's nothing you have to fill out ahead of time, there's no approval process for anybody unless you're a client going through an agency. But for the general public, it's calling the 48 hours ahead of time. We have a full-time transportation coordinator, which is somebody we added 2 years ago to help in this movement that we started trying to reach out to the general public community. That person helped people with scheduling those appointments, with working with them. A lot of times people are confused when they would call and need something the same day or the next day, and they'd already made a doctor's appointment, and then they were confused. So that person we have on staff will actually work one-on-one with them, sometimes even if it means calling the doctor's office for them, to help them reschedule an appointment and to explain maybe to an office manager that this person is gonna be riding in on a public transit bus. Can you work with us to reschedule that appointment? So she works with the clients really closely one-on-one.
Okay. And the telephone number?
253-7800,
And I'm assuming there's a website too?
www.brunswicktransit.org.
And will it be okay if we put a link on our website?
Absolutely. We
Okay.
love that.
If I could follow up what Mr. Hewitt asked about earlier, since, let's use the doctor's appointment as an example. Do you know what the wait time would be for their return trip?
All of that is scheduled when they call. That transportation
Oh, okay.
coordinator would ask,
So is it,
where you're going, when you need to be there, how long do you think you're gonna be there, when do you wanna be picked up?
Okay.
We try really hard not to have anybody sitting and waiting, so if you tell us I need to be there an hour, then we're gonna have somebody back to pick you up. The buses
Got it.
aren't sitting waiting on you. The same driver that dropped you off is not always the same one that's
Yep.
gonna be picking you up. We have a lot of technology. The grants aren't, great in that they don't give us everything we need, and they don't always give us what we need, but a lot of times they give us extras. So, we're always asking for something, but sometimes we get extras. We have cameras and vehicle location, we have tablets. It's wonderful because, we have GPS on the vehicles to help find addresses that can be difficult, dirt roads and that sort of thing. The drivers have tablets to help with on-time performance. It really helps with locating the passengers and keeping them on time and that sort of thing. But yes, they give
It's
us all of
scheduled.
that information, so you're not sitting at the doctor's office all
Okay.
day, not knowing when the bus is gonna be back.
also, do you happen to have data on how many residents at Holden Beach are using this service?
I could get that. We use
Well,
a scheduling software that would track all of that information.
Thank- Interesting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chief Wally Lane.
Good evening, everyone. This is a tough act to follow. The only thing we can offer you is
All right.
a free ride to Bolivia, and it's not a free stay, but theoretically, it's a free stay at our hotel. And anyone that's interested in that, we'll be glad to accommodate.
No round trip.
All that being said, since last we met, we have had a rash of car break-ins. Open the door and reach ends. County also had the same situation. That came to an end. That was about a 3 or 4 week period of numerous of these. That came to an end this past Saturday night when we arrested the young addict and his girlfriend that had been doing these break-ins. They're currently at the Crossbar Hotel under a fairly high bond, so hopefully we won't see them again this summer. Otherwise, I don't know how many of you pay attention to NOAA and what's happening in the tropics, but the tropics are continuing to heat up. Make sure your plans are up to date, especially if you're ordered to evacuate. Hopefully the storms will stay away. Certainly not a guarantee. We out there now. Gert went 400 miles offshore and is going on out to sea to see what he or she can see. I'm not sure if Gert was a male or a female. I think it was probably a male, but anyway, going on out. But there are 2 more potentials behind Gert. And it's too early to tell who, what, when, or where they're gonna do. And I'm sure there will be numerous others behind these, because as my understanding goes, and the mayor probably knows better, and maybe even the town manager, but I think NOAA has updated their forecast, and it has increased as opposed to decreased in the number of named storms, hurricanes, and those sorts of things. Now, did they say one was gonna hit Holden Beach? No. Can they say that? No. Is it possible? Absolutely. So I say all that to say, make sure you have a plan, especially if you have to evacuate, and we will assist in any way we can with that. Otherwise, be glad to answer any questions. Hearing none.
I've got one thing. Is there anywhere on your sheet here that I can look to see how many break-ins we had in the last month, or car break-ins? Because I don't see it. That's the reason I was asking.
It's a month behind. It's a month behind,
Okay,
so you'll see it next month.
okay.
Yep.
Chief, your log does not include traffic stops, and I'm wondering why that's not included.
Say again?
Your log does not include traffic stops. You don't count for them on this activity.
They should be. I'm not
I
sure.
agree, but I'm wondering why it's not.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether or not this time. I think typically they are, and I will certainly make sure they are next time. We do quite a few of those. Yes, ma'am.
Did a young woman get hit recently?
Yeah. There was a young lady from, Powhatan, Virginia, that was running. She was in about her 14th mile of her run. And she was crossing the intersection at the bridge in OBW. From all accounts, she stopped and assessed the traffic. Didn't see anything that was gonna be a problem for her. Started across, and a vehicle was coming down OBW and turning onto the bridge. And for whatever reason, the operator of the vehicle did not see the person in the intersection and struck her. As the fates would have it, and very fortunately for everybody involved, she was not significantly injured. She had some road rash. She was back home by that afternoon, and the world's a better place because of that. Yes, ma'am.
Was somebody charged with that? I can't remember if the driver was.
Yes, the driver was shot.
And are they releasing the names of the two people you arrested? You have those names?
I'm sure if you, we could release them to you. I'm not sure why they wouldn't include it in the
I'm sure they
report
were,
that you
just
would
to
have
make sure
gotten.
they were.
And if they weren't, obviously, they haven't been to the sheriff's office. Pravat, was the gentleman's last name? Pravattte was the primary suspect.
All right, thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir. Sir?
We got a B.
Interlocal agreement.
Oh, yeah. I didn't have a B on mine, but I did hear about the B. The B is that annually, the sheriff's department sends us, an interlocal agreement that we will assist them if they request our assistance, and vice versa. That's what this amounts to. It's an annual signing off on the fact that we'll help them if they help us. And the only thing I'd say about that is we help them a lot more than they help us. I mean, I don't know what else to say about that one. They have a shortage of deputies on this end of the county, and a lot of times we answer calls on this end of the county for the county. But, I mean, it's a good thing either way.
And I see you signed it, so you're in agreement to it already.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
This has been ongoing for several years.
This has been ongoing since before I got here, 15 years ago.
All right, anything else? Thank you again, Chief. That
Yes,
was,
sir. Sorry about the B thing.
Mr. Hewitt, did you want to add anything else to the
Gonna approve this?
just comment about B, 11, I mean 8B?
You want to approve this?
Well,
I don't think you heard.
There's not a 8B, is there?
What he just referenced. Do we
That's
have to vote on
8A.
it?
8A,
Yeah, this is good business.
Do we have to vote
Recommend
on it?
approval.
So we do need
we need a motion.
Yes.
Move approval.
Second?
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. It's passed unanimously, Madam Clerk. All right, so we just finished 8A, and we are now on number 9, yard debris report. Mr. Clemens.
It probably won't be quite as exciting as Wally's report is, is yard debris. I know you'll probably remember back in April, board actually elected cancel or delete the yard debris pickup from our waste industries contract, because actually it had a major price increase. It was almost 4 times what we were paying at that time. The elected, and we approved or accepted the bid of the tram plants to provide that same service for us, and you'd asked that the contractor provide us with a report, or a monthly report to how many people actually utilizing the service to try to figure out where we needed to hit in the future. So far, we've only had a month and a half of data to actually compile at this time, because when we actually approved it in April, we only had 1 pickup in April and 2 in May. And what I'm seeing so far, we've actually probably got about 50 to 60 people that are actually utilizing that service. That being said, I don't think we've done it long enough to really get a complete picture of what we're looking at. Our fall pickups are October, November, December, the second Friday of each one of those months. Maybe at that time we could review it again just to see if it looks like it's holding pretty true on that, but I don't know how to run as far as spring or fall.
Mr. Clemens, will you, I see some people trying to write those dates down. Will you repeat those pickup times?
Yeah, I'll give you the whole schedule. Our spring schedule is March, April, and May. It's the second and fourth Friday of each month. And our fall schedule is October, November, and December, the second and fourth Friday of each month. If they've got any neighbors or anything that's got any bundles of debris they want to put out, if they put them out, if they be picked up, they do have to be bundled, or bundled up with twine or a biodegradable bag, not to exceed about 50 pounds per bundle. That being said, that's about as exciting as I make it. If you've got any questions.
Is this information on the website, and do you also send out reminders? That's what I thought, thank you.
Mr. Clemens, you said roughly 50 to 60 people using it.
Yeah.
Is that folks who had yard debris out in their, at the place to be collected, or is?
That's actually people that were in compliance and had stuff bundled up like it should be in order for them to pick it up.
Okay,
And I don't count somebody that had a pile of debris there that don't.
That's why I asked.
Qualify that, but if you look at those numbers, there's probably as many people that do that, do it non-compliance, that wouldn't be picked up as there are that we're actually gathering this, and maybe we could get the information out, maybe it'd be better to bundle like it should be.
So if you count both, it's double what you're saying, 100 to
About
120
double,
are using it.
yeah, because I'd actually, had talked with him today about, giving me that information too, and we could look at that part of it if we come back in the fall.
Well, 120 are using it, that they're not, I mean, if they're
Well,
not bundled.
I'm saying,
Well, they're
I-
not-
but what I, the
A
reason I
need- a
ask.
need.
The
A
reason I
need.
ask is a need for it.
Okay.
People are, obviously, if they have it out there,
It's-
they're wanting it to be picked up
Well, but then,
if they
okay.
were in compliance,
That's the need, not they're using it, okay.
which is what,
Now, whether
I'm
that was
interested
their
in.
intent or not, or if they just voted out there trying to, pump somebody into getting it, that's the way they roll here. If it's not bundled like it should be, you won't get it.
yeah.
So what you're saying then is 50 people used it each of the pickup days? So 150 people total?
Yeah, so we had like,
Okay.
I think the first pickup in April, we had about 53, the next one was 55, and I think his last one was like 60. And if I looked at the non-compliant sheet was about the same length as what that was. And like I said, that's where somebody had like a truckload of debris piled beside the road, didn't have a bundle, no bags or anything.
Where we haven't discriminated or been able to stratify that is that we don't know if the 50 that use it the first time are the same 50, and then it's the next ones. But that's some of what we'll.
It wasn't picked up because it wasn't bundled, so next
Right.
time it was bundled,
Right.
it was picked up. Okay,
Yeah,
I get
yeah.
it.
That being said, that's about all I've got, unless you got any more questions.
No, sir, thanks for all the good jobs you people do for us.
Thank you.
Mr. Hewitt, you gonna talk about fund balance?
Yes, sir. In response to the commissioners' deliberations during the budget season, y'all had requested that a fund balance policy be crafted that would provide for setting an unassigned general fund balance ratio, and what we've proposed here, which is in sync with what our discussions with the local government commission has recommended, is that a range with a minimum of 40% to a maximum of 70% be established. The thought process is that funds that are in excess of 70% would then be automatically escrowed in a beach nourishment capital reserve account. The second piece of the policy also provides for consideration of an annual contribution that equals 5% of the town's occupancy tax collection would also be contributed to the beach nourishment capital reserve account. So that's what this policy does, is that it establishes that as your goal and also defines the mechanism to do that with.
Any questions?
Is there a provision that that 40 to 70% to the general fund balance is not a transfer from the B part fund balance?
Well, the general fund balance ratio is a measurement of how much revenue in the general fund is available for appropriation in the following year, and it has nothing to do with the transfer of the B Part fund balance. It's a measurement of the end-of-year general fund revenues that are available to be appropriated in the general fund in the next year.
What was our unassigned fund balance this last time?
I don't think I answered your question. Can you say
So
that
you're
one more
saying
time?
we've never transferred B-Part funds to the general fund, or to reflect in the general fund balance for the next year? We never, previous year?
Oh, I didn't say that. I mean,
That's-
but is your question is, have we transferred B-Part funds to the general fund in years past? That answer is yes. Okay, but that is not the measure that the fund balance ratio is. The fund balance ratio is what's left at the end of the
I understand that, but
budget.
you can achieve that by transferring funds from the B-Part fund into the general fund to make that, to meet that minimum, or you can manage it through that, a fund balance transfer.
Yeah, this,
And I think we don't want to necessarily do that all the time. I understand the reasons to do that
well,
sometimes.
the way that this policy is actually crafted is that it actually envisions that funds more than 70% will actually go to the B-Part fund the other way.
And then, I was going to ask the same question. So what, but you have a minimum, so what's our fund balance currently?
Of course, this is an unaudited number, and I believe that the number in the budget message was estimated at 35%. Somebody's gonna have to check that for me. I don't have it off the top of my head.
Right, okay.
So,
Yeah, I'd like to add one point of clarification. Many of you have heard this before, but some may not have. The B-Part fund is not a piggy bank that you go to and just grab money. There are strings attached that only those funds can be used for certain things. So it's not an automatic go-to to make things balance over here. That money coming out of that B-Part fund has to be directed towards something that is covered in the state statutes. Is that right? Did I say that right, Mr. Hewitt? Okay. All right, anything else on this? Are we through with that, Mr. Hewitt?
would
You
ask
want-
the
you want a
board
motion?
to approve the fund balance policy as written.
Okay, anybody want to make a
Yeah,
motion?
I'd make a motion, we approve.
Second.
Mr. Freer and Mr. Fletcher, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. It's unanimous, Madam Clerk. I believe we're at number 11. Is that correct? Town Clerk, would you like to address this?
I made a mistake and I left Becky Willis off of the last month's meeting when we voted, so her term is up, but she's eligible to run, or to have another term, and she would like to do so if the board would like to put her on there.
Is this for regular or alternate, or do we have such thing in?
Parks and
Regular.
Rec doesn't do that.
Okay.
They're all regular members.
Thank you.
Is there a
I move that we approve the nomination.
Second?
motion and a second? Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Again, unanimous, Madam Clerk. 11A. You want to read your?
Do you want me to?
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Madam Clerk, do you want to announce or do you want me to announce?
You can, Laura.
Okay. Are we out of executive session? Did we formally come out of executive session?
Yes.
All right. We are out of executive session and there was no action taken. We are now going into regular session again. We are on item number 12. And that item Mr. John Fletcher is going to bring to us.
I move that Elizabeth Street be identified as a no parking street and the sign be moved back to the dune from the street with immediate effect.
Is there a second?
I second.
All right. Any discussion?
I would just identify that my observations of parking in Elizabeth Street represent a significant risk to pedestrians or anybody else trying to get in there, is that there just isn't room for the kind of parking that we're seeing. People are parking on the pavement. Almost every car or truck is parked on the pavement with very little room between two vehicles when they're parked, even at an angle into the street. I think for safety reasons, that Elizabeth Street with houses on both sides of it deserves to be a no parking area, period.
Any more discussion?
Would you provide, do you recommend providing bicycle and beach wagon and golf cart?
Well, those aren't vehicles, right?
Right.
So-
Golf carts
I
are.
would.
Oh, the golf carts. Oh, I'm sorry.
Bicycles, beach wagons, and golf carts
Yeah, golf carts.
Oh, I
are-
saw buggies.
would be fine.
So you're amending your motion?
If I need to amend the motion for that,
Okay.
but it would allow for the parking of bicycles, beach wagons or carts, and golf carts.
Madam Clerk, would you read the motion as you understand it?
Elizabeth Street be identified as no parking and the sign be moved back to the dune with immediate effect, but we would allow golf carts, bicycles, beach wagons, and golf carts.
Mr. Freer, I assume you agree to the
Yes,
amendment.
yes, sir.
Any more discussion? Madam Attorney, you got anything to add?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
If we're actually making it no parking and not just restricting by sign, that has to be done by ordinance, and I don't have an ordinance prepared, so I don't know if that's, if it's no parking, I can't do that based on what we have on the books.
Then I would,
Restricted by sign.
I would amend the movement then, the motion, to simply make it a parking by signage, which would include allow bicycles, golf carts, and beach wagons, but no automobiles or no other vehicles.
Second.
Well, I thought I just heard it had to be an ordinance. What's,
Do it by sign, or you can make it no parking to require it.
It's on the book, restrict by sign right now. You can restrict it by sign, but we can't make it no parking. That, I know I'm kind of double talking, but
I understand
it's not
that.
supposed
I
to.
understand that.
okay, okay.
I think I'm obligated to make the board aware of some policy considerations that you may or may not have factored into consideration. And I've looked at the pictures in the package, and, you know, it appears to me that it's an enforcement issue, which is another matter. And is this a temporary measure that you're contemplating putting in place? Because you've got some CAMA land use policies that are on the books, and those are mandated, not mandated that those policies have to be constructed the way they are, but we have to address those kinds of policies. And in our CAMA land use plan, we have things like maximizing public access to the beach and maximizing recreational opportunities for residents and visitors, access for all segments of the community. Town supports public access to the ocean front, seeking funding from federal, state, and county. Continue to identify ways to improve existing access sites and improved handicapped area access. And so there are several other policies that you have in your existing land use plan. Now, that land use plan is about 10 years old, but they do specifically address improving access, and this appears to me to restrict access. And there's about 6 of those parking lots, if you will, that they're not street ends, half of them are street ends, that are pretty much the same thing. The circumstances are they're 50-foot wide lots, whether they're right-of-way accesses or lots, that they are generally configured in the same manner. That is, they've got parking on either side for cars and then a middle area to back in and get turned around, that kind of thing. So improving the access for handicap is what I kind of focused on, because we have whenever possible, and we do improvements to our walkways, whenever possible, we always try to make them be ramps. Sometimes it doesn't, the specific site layout doesn't work out, but we do try to make those accommodations. And I know the traditional view of handicap access is someone in a wheelchair. Well, that's not what we have today. We had AARP last week that was talking about improving access for all ages, and sometimes, or it would seem to me that whenever we put what I call a handicap access in, we're really providing access not just to the wounded warrior that doesn't have any legs anymore, but it's also for people that may not be able to get over steps. The mama dragging 2 kids in a wagon to get up the ramp instead of trying to lift them up out of the beach wagon and get them over to the beach. So I just want to make sure that y'all are apprised of that. And when we talk about constructing handicap access, but we've restricted the parking to bicycles and golf carts. And I'm not being sarcastic here, but how's the guy that doesn't have any legs going to get to the handicap access? I mean, he's not going to ride a bike, most likely.
Well, but you asked the question, I think, from the very first, are we considering this a temporary action? I mean, I didn't make the motion, nor did I second it, but I would, given that the last meeting in your town manager report, it's documented, you said you're looking at something with the walkway, a conceptual design and all that. So given that, I would support this being a measure. Well, any action we take, in essence, can be temporary, because we can take action to change it next meeting. But my thinking is that this would be a stopgap for now, and still, I would encourage you to continue with your plans. I'm sold on the handicapped access, but we don't have it right now, which is a concern.
We did something similar to Ranger recently, too. We put in spaces for bicycles, beach wagons, and golf carts. So that's one of the 3 that you mentioned. I think this is fairly unique because there's 2 houses that are right enclosed there, so the parking is more restricted and more, fumes and things like that, it's not a wide open space. It's different than Ranger.
It's not any different from the parking lot at Quentin Street, which is a 50-foot wide lot that has houses on both sides. So what, in terms of access, where I think that I'm trying to recommend is we need to standardize our access points whenever possible, and to the matter of it being temporary, the building inspector will tell you, he's not here tonight, that nothing is ever so permanent as a temporary configuration. And I just want to make sure that y'all are cognizant of those land use policies.
My understanding of the land use policy is we can.
To a further point, I want to make sure that, to my knowledge, that we have not withdrawn participation in the 50-year project. And the 50-year project has a requirement for beach accesses within every 400 meters or so that have parking available to them. Now, if the board wants to, I think this is a slippery slope. It may just be an isolated rifle shot on it, but in the broader context of participating in a 50-year project, I really think that you should register that. If nothing else, we have pending legislation in front of the General Assembly that is to provide funding for beach nourishment and hazard mitigation. And that legislation has not passed yet, but I'm not writing the law, but I'm pretty sure that there will be a requirement in that law that probably will mimic the rules in the federal 50-year project, so that there will be adequate access for all to the beaches, to include parking, if you have any chance of accessing that state money. So,
Well, we've heard from citizens that the east end is almost oversaturated with parking. So we need to look at, I think we could address your concern with other properties that even the town owns, so we could address that concern.
And a comprehensive look at parking is what we need to do, instead of, month by month, addressing these individual streets and taking away parking spots all over the island. That's not helping the whole town's parking problem by taking away parking on this little street, and then next month, this group of citizens come by and we take away parking spots from their street because they don't like it, and then this little group comes to us and we take away these spots because they don't like it. Nobody likes it. So we need to, as a town, come up with a comprehensive parking plan.
And we have people working on that. And again, there's 3 unique streets.
From my perspective, if this weren't a safety issue with the way people are parking there, I wouldn't be as concerned. And I don't think we minimize access to it for anybody. And there are increasing number of golf carts being used on the island as transport. And I think you'll have more and more people that would use that access who use golf carts, I might be one of them. I've got a golf cart, and I've also got the handicap sticker. I could be the one that goes down there and use it as a handicap access. So I don't think we're doing that, and I think we are producing a safety issue by what I'm recommending.
And my question and need for clarification is that what makes Elizabeth Street more unsafe than the other 5 lots that are east of Jordan Boulevard, and they're just as tight, and they are just as, or half of them are street ends? If it's deemed to be unsafe for Elizabeth Street, shouldn't the same consideration be made for those other locations?
Well, assuming that's correct, I would say certainly. We can't ignore, if it's a safety issue, we can't ignore it because others exist.
And herein lies the crux of that. You have a CAMA contract for the construction of the facility on Quinton Street that the town has agreed that it will be, the particulars of it, that the town accepted money to construct that, and it was approved to be constructed as a parking lot, handicap accessible, if you will. And we have a contract that says we're going to do that. And now what we're saying is that if Elizabeth Street's unsafe, then Quinton Street is unsafe, but we've accepted funds many years ago to make that public parking at Quinton Street. So, I mean, that is a quandary.
Well, just going by your statement, we accepted funds many years ago to make it a parking space, and we haven't yet? I
No,
mean-
it's built. It's built. It's a parking lot.
Okay.
Commissioners want to hear from the chief?
It's not a public forum.
It's
The public speaking is over, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Chief?
The only thing I would respectfully submit, having been here 15 years, there's never been any incident on any of the streets we're talking about concerning safety.
Up to 2016, that was a no parking street.
Not this year, not any year previous.
It wasn't opened up until parking.
Well, the pictures we have here show multiple vehicles. I don't know if it was the same day or what, but they're actually parking on the pavement. So that is an infraction. I don't know about the safety issue, but there's a problem here, even if you look at the safety aspect or the compliance aspect. Now, Quinton, I'm assuming, does not have this same configuration because it's designated, the whole street, from what I'm hearing, is a parking.
It's actually not a street, it's a lot, but
Okay.
the size of
So-
it are the same, is the same.
So the analogy isn't the same.
So, yeah, totally different.
Well, I don't know if I look at it as, well, we talked about it being temporary. We can change it next meeting if we decide to, based on what the plan is. Mr. Hewitt, whenever you're ready to present what your plan is, and a timeline, I would say that's how I would consider it being temporary. Because I'm in favor of a handicap access that you described.
Okay, I'd like to qualify that a little bit more. It's what you're saying is that the board expects me to bring the application to construct a public access at Elizabeth Street back before them for approval before we move out with that? Because whenever
Before we what?
Before it's constructed, because
No,
whenever.
no, well, that was just a statement I made based on what you said last meeting,
Right.
that you were working on. I was just giving it the context of temporary.
No, the parking we're talking parking and access is different. I think you've got the,
I know they're different, but
yeah, you
the
got,
que-
the town manager has the approval, he's going forward with the permitting and everything associated with the access.
yeah, I'm not
Parking-
asking to approve
Okay,
that.
all right,
Okay, that's what I think he was asking.
okay.
Ashley.
I was just understand. I have no more questions.
Any more discussion?
One more time, one more thing, I'll quit. As a practical matter, if I think that what is okay, if the board is looking to do a no parking except for, golf carts, bikes, those things mentioned, it would have to be by sign. As we don't have those signs, we have to have them made. Normally, listen, it's the practical side of getting it done, okay? Chris, how long does it take to get the signs?
Probably about 2-3 weeks.
Okay, 2 to 3 weeks, we're gonna be at Labor Day. There's not gonna be anybody here. You know, the issue, I think, goes away. But, I mean, we can, unless we're gonna get a can of spray paint and a piece of plywood and go out there and put it up, which is not what I think we're doing. You know, I just want to put that in front of the board.
I believe Mr. Fletcher said we just move the signs that are there back.
At point of order taken. I'm
Those
gonna ask the audience again to
signs-
please refrain. Sir, Mr. Lynch, I know who you are, and I respect you, and I know you're a good citizen, but no, Chief, we can't have this. We're not gonna have it. You're gonna have to refrain, sir. You're out of order. I've been nice about it. Commissioners have asked me to get order, and I have to do it. So you're welcome to stay, but you cannot talk unless you're recognized and agreed to by the commissioners to speak. You can speak, sir. You can speak in this meeting when we get to public comments, number 18. You can talk right then. You just can't talk right now.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right.
I think we're ready for a vote.
Call for the vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No.
4-1, Madam Clerk. Okay,
I just want to point out that motion called for immediately.
As
and
soon as possible. Immediate, as soon as possible.
all right, Mr. Fletcher, you're still up for number 13.
I move that the Board of Commissioners instruct the town staff through the town manager to determine the cost to increase recycling pickup to weekly for the period from approximately May 15th through September the 15th, effective with the 2018 calendar year.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. You got it, Madam Clerk? All right, it's time to discuss.
Are we separating out the other action that was in agenda item 13, require all rental units to have one recycle bin?
Yes, this is, am I right that we would do individual move, it can only have one subject matter?
Are you
So it's a
asking me to
separate sub-
comment?
No, looking for the Madam Clerk. It's one subject, it's a one subject matter at a time. And this one, I would hope that the town staff can find out for us, what will it cost us to increase for about 4 months, from one to two, or one, for every other week to weekly for the recycle pickup. And that only beginning with the 2018 calendar year.
Right, but our package has the second sentence in it. So how are we addressing require all rental units to have one?
That's another motion.
Okay.
Can I get some more of this?
Yes, sir.
This, agenda item 13 and 14, is part and parcel of a topic that the commissioners broached at a couple of different budget workshops concerning solid waste, recycling, and also yard debris pickup. And at that time, we communicated that the staff is conducting a process review of the entire solid waste, all attributes of solid waste, which is not only recycling, brush pickup, the numbers, types, and kinds of cans, everything about solid waste, and was going to wait until we had a year's worth of data in September, which would be the anniversary date of truncating the wholesale recycling service that we formerly had out here on at the water tower. As we have delved into it, we've been working on it for about 6 months now, and we have identified approximately 70 different elements related to solid waste. There are a number of different, and all of these things are interrelated. And we can bring this back to you. We probably already have that answer somewhere, but I can assure you that it is only going to beget another question. And what I would propose that I and the staff be allowed to do is to present that in a holistic format so that you have it all laid out for you, and it's not just a piece here and a piece there. So my recommendation to you is to let us do what we have told you that we're going to do, and to bring it back to you soup to nuts, and to take all of these considerations that are not only in 13 but also in 14. Part of that will be to, now that the staff has stripped this thing down pretty far, is to bring some stakeholders in that would add immensely to the perspective as customers, and not be a top-down driven solution. So that's my comment to the board.
When would you anticipate having some information?
I need to get through Labor Day, and I need to get the data in from Waste Industries. I would assume that mid-October or November would be wise, but that's actually assuming that I can get some stakeholders in and get them up to speed on where we are.
Who are these stakeholders? I mean, not personally, but
Property
descriptions?
management companies
Okay.
would definitely be in the mix. I'd want to make sure that I have an absentee property owner that is on the island. I'd like to have a fairly representative number of faces on that we could bring around the table and get some insight to make sure that we're shrink wrapping the service levels for the community.
Okay.
To include year-round residents, that's, a couple, those kind of things, but a different smattering
Yeah.
of representation.
Well, I think we've certainly got evidence now that those stakeholders you identified would be appropriate, because I'm seeing more and more what I would call abandoned furniture that is approaching a month now to where things are just out there. So I'm glad to hear the stakeholders.
So, Mr. Hewitt, in your current studies, would you expect to come back with a proposal to the board, or a proposal for an ordinance that would require every rental property to have at least one recycle bin?
I feel sure that the number of recycle bins, if appropriate, would be addressed. Now, what type of configuration that would be, we have an extra number of an extra can for a certain number of bedrooms, but that would certainly be a consideration. I don't know once we go through that, if it would be an appropriate solution or as far as a desired service. I'll certainly make sure that those items in 13 and 14 are on the plate. We've already touched them in our stripping down of the solid waste automobile, but I think that we're in a pretty good shape now if we can get through Labor Day in order to craft something that's worthy of consideration for you. And it may be a suite of options that is available. What I'm trying to do is to make sure that it's not just we fix this as a perceived problem without a definitive effort to see what it might impact. You know, it's kind of like a bowl of spaghetti, just wiggling on this little noodle makes the whole plate jiggle. So, anyway, that's,
And
I'm done.
One last thing to pack your program there. What I observe again and again and again is huge homes with one trash can, one solid waste. We
And-
need some sort of.
And enforcement.
In that enforcement would be an issue, so I would
And
hope that would come back
absolutely.
as well.
Absolutely. It's one of those 70 elements that I talked about.
Perfect.
Sounds good.
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
That'll get the job done.
So you're going to withdraw
Yeah, I'll withdraw. Do I have to make a movement to that?
your motion?
You just say, may I withdraw my motion if the seconding person agrees it's withdrawn?
Yep.
All right, withdrawn, Madam Clerk. Mr. Hewitt, you're up with your report.
If y'all haven't finished, or tired of me, I do have a report, and I'll be brief and go through it quickly. First, want to talk about the sewer lift station upgrade. We have the request for qualifications for the engineering services on the street. Those proposals are due the 1st of September. That'll be what I call a DBC design, bid, and construct, and we'll bring, hopefully we can get them in by the 1st of September, go through them and have a recommended proposal or recommended firm for your consideration at the regular September meeting. The flood map status, I got nothing different than what we had last month other than spring of 18 is what we're looking at. If somebody else has got more insight as to that, please share it with us because that's what our sources are telling us.
Do we have any intelligence as to why it continues to be extended out?
I don't have
Or any-
intelligence, but I have an opinion. It's kind of hard to pay for all of that damage west of 95
Yep.
and not have a corresponding revenue stream. Again, just for the newspaper's edification, that's my opinion. And I
Well-
have heard no one say that.
I share that opinion, that's why I asked.
The status on the Lockwood Folly Inlet, unless the Merritt gets another hole poked in the bottom of it between here and Mans Harbor, I believe, it should be here by the end of the week. I don't have a survey in hand on it, but the conditions, my opinion again, that resulted from some of the work that they did, but also the work that we did previously on our piggyback project that opened up the northern end of the waterway crossing up there. That has helped to keep the throat of the inlet scoured out. That hasn't been substantiated with a recent survey yet, but I haven't heard any complaints from any of the boat captains. Of the $420,000 that was provided by the memorandum of agreement, there's been about $150,000 that's been expended, leaving just shy of $300,000, which includes $24,000 from the previous year. That's available to continue the Lockwood Folly Inlet dredging program. That equates to about 15 more days. Whether or not they'll need to use all 15 of those days, we don't know. Just depends on how good that the inlet's looking. And I am thinking that perhaps we won't have to use all 15 days and we can come back and hit it on a spot basis. But that remains to be seen till we get a survey in. And as a longer life project, we finally got the signs up on the public accesses. This has been a continual desire expressed over many years, and we've worked with Brunswick County. I mean, it's just the sign, y'all, but putting them on public accesses is a little bit more. It's not as complicated as trash, but there's a little bit more to it than just putting a sign up there. This is an example of the signs. We've located them on the beach side and also on the street side. The number at the top, the sign includes a GeoLink nomenclature that goes, that's synced with GIS and also emergency services. So the PW200 is a unique identifier that automatically, whenever somebody says that and calls in on emergency services, that gets them here. Everything's deployed almost transparently now. The 103.5, that's not my favorite radio station. That's actually the physical address on Ocean Boulevard. Now, whether it's east or west, but that mimics the protocol that we have for our house numbers too. Just so happens that the 0.5, we have to go with a half of an address because of where they are. Like I said, this is an example. It's not working. Okay. Where they're located on the beach side, this is actually at Jordan Boulevard. On the street side, this is the foot of the bridge, an example of the emergency access there. Whenever it's on the street side, whenever possible, we try to co-locate them with our menu board of signs. And some of the locations that it's not, we don't have a lot of distance from the beach or from the streets, we've been able to conspicuously put both signs on one pole so it faces both ways. So for those locations that don't have something going on there, we should have them all deployed at the public accesses. Private accesses is another thing. We don't address those. Vegetation planting, sand fence, post and rope installation. I just wanted to take 1 second to show you how well the vegetation is doing now that it started raining. You know, the rain that we've had, the fertilizer is kicked in. This is the picture right here at I call it Captain Jack's. That vegetation is probably 45 days old. We started planting it. That was some of the first one, April, May, the 1st of May, maybe 60 days old. But it's starting to really take off. And if you look at the forefront of that dune, that is really taking off. And that was the area that was actually used as the access there. So all of that vegetation is new. We've pretty much finished installation of the vegetation, the sand fence, and the post and rope, although we do have some fine tuning left to do. The east end in particular, the propagation of those plants down there was less than robust, so my contractor's going to be coming back. And in some areas like where the turtle patrol had a nest and it's gone, there's a vacant place there, so we'll go back and actually re-sprig those. To the west of the Central Reach project, what will now take place, that the project is finished and we're going to see the littoral drift going east to west. The term is equilibration, and as the sand moves to the west, what we will do is, after hurricane season, is do an assessment on a lot-by-lot basis and look at a spring replication of what we've done here, in order to make that area to the west of the Central Reach project, which was, 781? So on a case-by-case basis, we'll be looking at doing the same thing there. We've got to get some of that sand that's east moving on down the beach, and the intent is to catch it with sand fence and vegetation. I'm almost finished. The Beach Ranger program, just wanted to offer up a little bit of perspective that I think that the Beach Ranger program is doing what the town wants it to do. Wally can follow up on that, but I see the abandoned personal property tickets every day, and they have come down. I haven't got a lot of complaints from folks that stuff's being left out overnight. We had enough of complaints from when we were securing that abandoned property that I think that the word has gotten out. Likewise, dogs on the beach complaints, I'm not hearing it. If others are seeing dogs on the beach, you need to let us know. I think that holes on the strand is always going to be an issue, but at least we're hitting what I call the big three, and it's a work in progress. But so far, I think that we're accomplishing the objective. Last but not least, Wally mentioned the hurricane that's offshore. If you don't have your decals yet, remember, you get 2 free ones, but you got to come by and pick them up. So now's the time to take care of that. Since we have generators on the facilities now and going through some of our hurricane plans, part of our protocol in an evacuation scenario is going to be pulling the generators off of the island. What that is going to have an effect is that it is going to back up the staff's ability to be up here handing decals out prior to a storm, okay? Get your decals early. Don't wait until a storm, it's raining outside and it's blowing, because we might be gone from here. So anyway, I'm done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hewitt. Mayor's report's brief. If you don't have your hurricane plan ready, please get busy making it up to date. And if you need help in a list of things you should be considering doing, if you'll contact the town and/or me, we'll make sure you get a list of things that we recommend. Trash pickup. We're still using my dump truck for my property management homes. Usually 2 dump truck loads a week. Week being Saturdays, whenever the renters are checking out. I'm looking forward to you commissioners making some changes in our trash pickup before next season. That would be good. And also, if you haven't signed up for the email blast from the town, you know, it is storm season, and that is the best way that we make sure that everybody has a last-minute update from the town of Holden Beach. And we will get those email blasts out as things change during a time of possibly being involved with a storm or other emergency. So all you have to do is contact Town Hall and sign up, and highly recommend that. And with that, we'll move to our Commissioner's report. Mr. Fletcher.
Thank you, everybody, for coming and participating tonight. I will remind again that if you have an issue with anything that's going on in the town, contact the mayor, the town manager, and the commissioners. Let them know the details of those. Give us a chance to sort it out. Everything we hear, every email I get, every phone call I get, we try to respond to it. They aren't always reasonable, but when they are, we try to do our best on it. But thanks for coming tonight.
Mr. Royal.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to this laborious process that sometimes seems not to have a solution, but personally, I endeavor to find out as much as I can so that I can either contribute to the solution or at least give an opinion if it's something worth pursuing. On a personal note, you now know that I'm not going to be running for reelection. It's not because I am tired of doing this. I've really enjoyed it. But during my term, I was given a business opportunity that I could not turn down, and I could not in good conscience run again and give it the attention that it needs. So it's not because I didn't want to. It was just a personal decision. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Freer.
Yeah, I'd also like to thank everybody and also thank Mr. Hewitt and the staff. You can see by his report, there's a lot of good things happening in the town. Some new, like the Beach Ranger program, I've heard great things about it. And there's a lot of activity, and they're working hard to make it a success. Thanks.
Ms. Eisenhower.
I've had several people lately to give me a call about an idea that, I don't know, frankly, I went on vacation and saw it in several different places. It's called the Little Free Library. And they're little tiny libraries that you see in communities where it's a little box and people put in books, and you can kind of come and take a book and bring it back, and it's free. And it's just a little exchange. And I had two ladies here on Holden Beach who didn't know each other call me recently and ask if we could consider putting one here. So I've brought it up with some of the staff, and we probably need to see if maybe Park and Rec or somebody can take a look at it, and we can think if it might fit in with what we have out here. But I think it would be a very nice addition to our community to add that in to the library that we already have. I mean, we have a fantastic library here already that a lot of people, are unaware of. But I think it would be a nice addition to that. They're cute. If you'll go online and just look up Little Free Library, some of them are wild and crazy, and some of them mimic the building next door to it, but they're really fascinating. So take a look at that, and I hope we can endeavor to try to get one here at Holden Beach. Other than that, just being out on the beach these past couple of days, we've seen several of the beach rangers, and that's been wonderful, out there with my big giant hat. They had no idea who I was, and they were always, asking what kind of fish we were catching, and just very friendly and welcoming, and a joy to see. So I was very thankful when they drove past. And two, I'm not running for another term. And it's not because this hasn't been a wonderful experience. It has. The town staff is amazing. They do an incredible job, and they have made my role very easy, and I'm very thankful for them. And working with these gentlemen has been a pleasure. But I have very young children who need their mom, so I'm going to go be a mom. And that's it for me tonight.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Kaiser.
I just want to thank everybody for being here, and I want to mimic what David was saying. If you don't have your stickers for your cars, get them now. Wally said there were 2 storms out there. Other than the name storm, in all reality, there's 3. There's another one right behind the other 2. The only reason it's not at 40% like the other 2 is because it's a little newer. It's at 20%, but it'll be getting to 40 probably tomorrow. So you got 3 storms that are headed this direction. Pray that none of them come. Pray that they go somewhere else. That's it.
Thank you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's an opportunity for any of you that want to speak about anything. If you would be recognized and come speak into the microphone and give us your name and where your property is. And Mr. Lynch, you certainly have an opportunity now to speak. If you like to?
Elsie Lynch, 206 Ocean Boulevard East. My apologies, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Commissioners, and Mr. Hewitt for being out of order. I'm just a little confused because I've been here more than a half a dozen times talking about a street. And it's becoming very comical to me because the town seems to be such a well-oiled machine. I mean, the things that we accomplished, you accomplished with the beach renourishment, but we're struggling over a street that's literally 100 feet long. Now, I live right beside the street. Obviously, I have interest in it, and obviously the people of LS Holden have interest in it. We just want to be involved in somehow. I don't know how to do that, but you gentlemen have intrigued me that I want to be involved. Before this point in time, I really had little interest in it, whether it was parking or no parking. Now, when I bought the property, it was listed as private parking. I got to listen to Ms. Holden talk about the fact that it was always intended for that. Now, personally, I have a parking problem, and if you let me park there, that's fantastic, then that takes care of my parking problem. My question is, what are we gonna do, one or the other? Now, I've got two really big issues. Number one is that it is very evident, and I've heard the commissioners vote time and time again, that we want this to be no parking. There's no doubt in my mind. We've seen it tonight, okay? It don't seem to be able to get there. Now, I struggle when I hear the town manager use words like a parking lot. Is it a parking lot or is it a street? Now, Mr. Mayor, and I'll be down to see you here shortly. You told me personally that we, town, receive state money because it's a street. Now, and then I'm really confused when I hear issues like access and parking. I don't think that anybody's denied access, but we do have a parking issue there. Or is it not a parking issue? I hope you can see my dilemma and say, you know, guys, really, this is getting to be pretty bad. And then I'm really confused when I hear the town manager tell us that it's gotta conform. That's what we have you commissioners for. And I tell you, I've got a tough job. But we don't have to conform to that. I believe y'all are the ruling body. And we have to have the best interest. Now, and Ms. Frieda, I want to be involved in the parking thing. I think that we really need to sit down and figure out what the big plan is in this parking. But I've got two issues, and I'm gonna sit down. But the thing that I have issue with is that I know what the commissioner's direction is on this, and I see that the administration is fighting it. So I want to see what's going to happen from here. Number two, the big question is, are the people of LS Holden been disenfranchised? Now listen, I've not been disenfranchised. The city gave me a private access to the beach. Thank you very much for the city. But that's a big question after sitting here listening to all this. I don't know, so my plea to you as commissioners, could we involve the LS Holden and make a decision that supports the community? Hey, but you know what, gentlemen? Now you have my attention, and I want to be involved. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir. Ms. Atkins?
I will make this very quick. I was very concerned that we were gonna change our setup on how people, on the term limits. When I first came into office, it was a 4-3-2-1 was the way it was set up. And I'm very concerned that I've read that you all are considering doing 3 people for 4 terms, for a 4-year term. That won't work. You get 3 people in that have decided what they're gonna do, and the rest of us may as well never come to a meeting. So I think you really need to consider the 4-3-2 term. On the 4th, I first went in on 4 years. Then there was an election 2 years after that. So the person that came in next, I was mayor pro tem at that time. That person that was the that got the most votes came in as mayor pro tem. So I think you need to go back and really study this. For God's sakes, don't put 3 people with 4-year terms.
Thank you. Who's next? Yes, sir.
Steve Simpson, 127 Con Street. I want to thank all you guys and gals because you do have a tough job. But you're doing a good job. I'm just a little confused on the parking situation because for 26 years, the last 2, there's been some sort of parking going on. But for 28 years that I've been here, I understood there was no parking there. That was an LS Holden access to walk into. The parking thing, I don't think is gonna work no matter what. Golf carts, when I was first moved into this area with my parents, we weren't allowed to even leave our bikes there. So now all this parking thing to me is confusing, and it really is not the greatest place for parking. Let everybody walk in. And if it's gotta be some sort of handicap, I know my neighbors watch me walk to the beach, and I do have a handicap. I don't claim to have one, but they'll watch me limp back and forth. So I don't understand why we can't walk to that access and not have vehicles and bicycles and things in our way. It's not that much room. And the 2 people on the side, if we've noticed for the last 2 years, people are parking on the lawns and stuff. To me, that's appalling. If somebody parked my lawn or damaged it, I wouldn't like that. I don't think anybody here would. So there are my comments. I think there's something to be worked out. I hope you guys can figure something out. I'm only here a couple times a year. I love Holden Beach. I hope that we can keep it kind of what I remember as a great family beach. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, anyone else want to speak about anything you want to speak about? Is that it? Is there a motion to
Move that we
adjourn?
adjourn.
Second.
Motion second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. We're adjourned.